Hi, you're probably here wondering, man, there was a lot of doom and gloom over the upcoming 9.2.0 patch. Is it really as bad as people said it was? That, or you just watched your favorite DBD content creator said, well, it's not that bad, while also saying that, well, I still need to play it in addition, and wondering, that's a very bright and sunny disposition for such a wild change. Is it really okay? The answer flatly is no, and I'm here to tell you the truth. So if that's all you're here for, yeah, it's just as bad as we thought it was going to be, but I will get into the specifics as we get into this video. So realistically here, I'm going to be focusing mostly on the tunnel and slug reduction update, since that's the most controversial thing here. What do I think of the new killer? I don't know. She makes me motion sick the same way Nurse does, so I didn't really get to test her that much because unfortunately, through health accessibility, I cannot really mess with that character. So I'm sorry about that. V looks cool though. V looks really neat, so good design there. So are the changes to anti-slug and anti-tunnel just as bad as we thought they were going to be? I would argue that they're arguably kind of worse. They're kind of worse than we expected they would be. So let's take it from the top here. Survivors that are unhooked or unhook themselves receive unhook protections for 30 seconds. 30 seconds. The main thing that I want to say here is that a lot of DBD content creators are condescending to you right now and saying, well, if you don't camp or tunnel, these changes aren't really gonna affect you. But the problem is, I don't usually camp and tunnel unless it is around 1 gen or somebody is running directly right back into me, meaning that they are making a misplay. And I am being very, very seriously affected by these. Even before the PTB started, I started playing in a way that would reflect these rules, and I still had it actually affecting my games nonstop. And surprise, surprise, I get into the actual PTB and they actually start affecting my games nonstop, despite the fact that I don't camp and I don't slug, I don't tunnel very often. This one, the 30 seconds of haste, endurance, and the elusive status in general already started to affect my games, because what would happen is I would hook somebody and then go chase somebody else, down hook that person, and if I ended up even in the general vicinity of the last person that I had hooked 2 times ago, they would still have the 10% haste, they would still have the endurance, they would still have the elusive status effect. There was a specific game I was playing as Oni on Greenville Square where I down hooked somebody, hooked them, and when I was running back into the middle of the map, I caught one of the people that I had recently seen unhooked and went after them, and they just kept outrunning me, and I was like super confused. I'm like, why is this person like consistently further ahead than they should be? And then I realized, oh yeah, this person still has 10% endurance and haste, so even when I do catch up to them, I'm just gonna hit their endurance anyway. Am I tunneling them? No. I already down and hooked another guy. I just happened to have such a quick chase that I'm already back in chase with somebody else. And because that happened within 30 seconds, I am, instead of being rewarded for having a really good quick chase, am now being actively punished for having a good and quick chase. Take note of that, because that's kind of the theme of this entire chapter in terms of changes to the killer side, is that if you play well, you're bad. I am not joking. There is a good boy gold star kind of logo happening around all of your hooks for your hook status meter. That's right. Literally, you get a elementary school gold star effect around your hook ring to show that you're doing a good job and you're being a good boy. And the moment that you break any of these rules and you hook outside of your rules, suddenly it goes back to red, because red mean bad. It's one of those things that if like I made this up as a skit for one of my intros to one of my videos, then you probably would be like, haha, really funny. But no, this is an actual real change that they turn your hook stats gold to let you know you're being a good boy, and then big red when you're being bad. It's so funny, and I can't believe it's real, but it's real. Furthermore, let's keep going. You also are completely immune to Killer Instinct while you have been recently unhooked for 30 whole seconds, meaning that if you're a character that has a power that functions solely off of Killer Instinct, or has a big part of it functioning with Killer Instinct, you don't get this. Legion, I noticed, was extremely affected by this in my Legion game, because Legion often will hit the person straight off hook, not to go after them to tell them, but just give them a quick swing to keep their Killer Instinct going for their failed frenzy, and then go to the next guy. But now, if you're trying to do your 4th into 5th hit down, and you hooked somebody anytime recently, you don't get their Killer Instinct, which means you just have to pretend or hope that you run into this person. Because if you don't, you have no idea there. And in my situation, in my Legion game, I actually did end up running into the person that didn't have Killer Instinct, but they have so much haste that like They're like, I couldn't get to them in time before my power gauge ended because they were faster than they usually should have been. Once again, I was not tunneling them. I was using, if anything, using a power that only works if I don't tunnel, and I got punished. I bet you're noticing a pattern. Also, there was a situation where I was playing in a Pyramid Head game, and somebody that I would have really liked to have gone after in the match, I lost track of, because once again, it was within 30 seconds of them coming off hook. They ran through one of my trails of torment, which usually gives Killer Instinct, and I didn't even realize that had happened initially until I looked over at my head and I was like, oh, they're tormented now. Interesting. So yeah, I just didn't get to chase that person because realistically, I should have got Killer Instinct on the other side of the wall, but I had no way of telling, so that's cool. Xenomorph obviously is somebody that I love to death. That is my main character. Obviously, one of the main ways you go around fighting people is through the Killer Instinct you get upon exiting a control station. Now, if it's been within 30 seconds of them coming off hook, you don't know they're there. Now, I want to make this really, really poignant is that it says these effects are lost when performing a conspicuous action, but this doesn't mean that they can't affect the game, because I've run into plenty of situations while testing where somebody will kind of like play chicken with me, like you're, you know, like we're playing basketball, we're throwing our hands over each other, like they're going to pretend like they're going to go to my hex totem, to a generator I want to defend, but like if I go near them, they're like, oh, I wasn't touching that. And then you guys have this weird kind of like hatch standoff like deal where you're like, you better not go touch that. But the moment you leave them, they're definitely going to go touch it. But if you go after them, once again, we come down here, it's like, oh, you're tunneling. Woo woo. But we'll get to that. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves. But essentially this mechanic, despite the fact that it turns off with conspicuous actions, creates this kind of like, ooh, don't do it. Kind of like game of chicken that is obnoxious, absolutely obnoxious. I also want to note that they do say that a lot of these disable when the generators are completed, but the haste and endurance don't, meaning that even if you are barely clutching a game or you just finally got that one guy and they get unhooked, guess what? 10% haste and endurance for 30 seconds. 30 seconds. So it's basically just a free out. Woohoo! But wait, there's more. I want you to remember this. These effects are lost when performing a conspicuous action, because you're going to notice conspicuously that this clause is not there for a lot of this other stuff that should probably have it. Interesting. I will say that the hook stats update, that when a survivor is hooked, the hook stats is obscured from the killer. There were so many times where I would be playing well, where I would be hooking multiple people because I'm having such quick chases that I'm just like, okay, I don't know what half of the game is doing right now. Because the other two would be mostly immersed, right? They would be hiding and I wouldn't be able to find them. And I couldn't go back to hook because I didn't even know the people had been unhooked. It was really weird and really disorienting. It's also really funny to mention, and I think this is just my bit of advice for you if this goes live, and based on the way behavior just kind of puts things out to live anyways, even though we should test it. This probably will hit live, unfortunately. Jagged Compass and Floods still go off the same way. So if you don't like this change, at least you got that. Another thing that really bothered me about this is that like healing under hook is already a bad thing that you should not be doing. It's very, very risky. This can be made better by hit meta perk Resurgence, because healing is busted out the wazoo still. Now I can't even interrupt that. I can't tell if somebody delayed. I can't tell if a Resurgence is going to happen real quick. Like Resurgence is already like top 10 perks in the game right now, because you just get off hook and you're healed like instantly. But now, like, it's even better because, like, even if you wanted to interrupt them, you just can't. If you've played Killer for more than 100 hours, you know breaking up the heal is a very important tactic. Trying to keep survivors injured as much as possible is part of your gameplay flow. Now you just kind of can't do that. They can just heal under the hook, which is supposed to be dangerous, but now it's just good, and the game encourages it. Now I will give behavior their flowers on one specific thing. 20% bonus for a unique hook for the next gen kick is really good, except when you think about most of the killers in the game that don't get value out of this. If you're Chucky, if you're good old Chumpy, 110 melee killer, by the way, and you get this kick bonus, you're 110 melee. If you're on a big map like Azeroth's Resting Place or Shelter Woods, and the most progressed gen is across the map, you're not using it on that. What if you're Deathslinger? 110 ranged killer that can't even affect people at super far ranges because your harpoon's range is limited. You're not going to get there in time to get value out of this. And there's a lot of characters where globetrotting is not part of their natural power scheme. It's not what they do. Trapper, Hag, like these characters set up an area, a web that they like to stick in and punish people for going in and out of. This means that if you want to get value out of this gen kick, you have to leave that web and ergo play the game as 115 man with machete. This goes doubly so, and we'll segue this into the 10% haste for 15 seconds. Cool, I get 10% haste for 15 seconds. Not only is 10% haste not a crazy amount and can be probably just applied through other perks that you have available to you, but 15 seconds isn't a lot either. So if you're playing somebody like, say, Xenomorph, and you hop into your tunnels where you're already 18 meters a second, yeah, this haste is going to feel good on you. But if you're playing like Trapper, where the whole point is really not to leave your web, it doesn't, it's not going to help too much. You're not going to get cross map to get to that gen in time to kick it with the 20% bonus, but it's antithetical to your character to leave your web. So whoop-de-doo that I get that bonus. This also goes doubly for the reveal all survivors outside of 40 meters that have less than equal hook states for 4 seconds. So they're base kit, barbecue, and chili sort of. Is once again, if I'm playing somebody like Chucky, like Trapper, like Ghostface, characters that either don't have any mobility options or it's a better idea to stay around a specific area, cool, they're over there. That's about it. Cool, they're over there, neat. But like, it is either not in your best interest, antithetical to your kit, or just not something you're realistically going to get value of to go over there. Realistically, what this is going to be used for more, these three, is for people that are in your area getting a little bit of haste to go down somebody that's currently in your area, which you're not getting the barbecue on, so you better hope you know they're there. It just, like, here's the problem. So they have this clause down here, which is Blight, the Dark Lord, Ghoul, Billy, the new lady, and Nurse get 10% bonus and 5% haste for 10 seconds. So they get a lesser version of this. Well, in practice, they get more value out of this mechanic than the players, or the characters rather, that they are meant for. Because you know who's really good at getting around the map? These guys. Meaning who's actually going to always consistently get the 10%? Who's going to have an even better time with the 5% haste? These guys. Most of your B and lower tier killers don't have good ways to get around the map. That's why they're B tier or lower. What does Nemesis do on Shelter Woods, 176 square tiles, when he's like, I have this big gen kick bonus, and I know that they're across the 176 square tile map. I guess with my 10% haste, I'm going to run over there. Oh, the gen pop, never mind. That's what's going to happen. But you know who's going to get over there? Blight. You know who's going to get over there? Ghoul. He's already over there. So guess who's actually getting value out of the mechanic? Not Nemesis. You know who it's meant for? Nemesis. You know who it's not meant for, really? The high mobility killers. And I know, this is just the no duh. But there's already such a massive character disparity in terms of power between like the top 10 killers in the game and like the B tier and lower. But we are now going to make that disparity even worse. Essentially, every character that you play that is B tier or lower is going to be knocked down even further a tier, and every S tier killer you play is going to get slightly better. Which I guarantee was not the point of the change. I think in their brains, they're like, aha, yes, see, this will raise up every C and D tier killer, and meanwhile, we'll make the effect very little for S tier killers. See, this sweeping change fixes everything. But in reality, a lot of the guys in like B tier or lower don't have the map mobility to get the value out of this stuff. Like they don't have the value to get the map mobility to get the value out of this stuff. These guys do. So they kind of didn't do the right thing here at all. If anything, they did the opposite. But this is where we get to the big doozy. Probably the biggest problem to come out of this update, and that being the tunneling penalties. When a survivor dies to a hook action or mori before 6 total hook states, the remaining survivors gain a 75 would be crazy. Not that 25 is a low number. 25% repair speed bonus. I've seen a lot of other like content creators streamers say, no, that makes sense. It's fine. 25% is wild because this is on top of Deja Vu, Prove Thyself, other historical gen rush perks that have always been good. Hyper-focus stakeout, which has still not been adjusted. And once again, I said it in the initial dev update video that I made, that 6 is really high. Killing somebody before 6 hook states is going back and forth between 2 people. That is you could not tunnel at all and trigger this. You could not tunnel at all and trigger this, which is the point. If you really want it to be anti-tunnel, it needs to be 3 or 4 hooks. Because either the 3 straight hooks is you tunneling one guy down, or it's 3 or 4, meaning that you tunneled one guy down, pretended to take a break, and then went and, you know, finished the tunnel. But 6 means I can actively not be tunneling and trigger this. And you may be saying, oh, we'll just keep track of it. If this change is made for the casual player base, like I keep hearing, it's like, well, it's for the casual player base. You think a casual player who is actively counting this, you think that or do you think they're just like, oh, well, I'm not tunneling, so I should be fine? No, they're not actively counting this. They're not actively like, oh yeah, sorry, I went back and forth between 2 people. I guess that's close enough to tunneling. They're not doing that. There were so many times that I had to stop in the middle of my matches today before I actually sacrificed a survivor to look down and go, am I at the right number? Like, why do I, in the middle of like succeeding and winning the game, have to suddenly go, oh, am I winning too good? Look down and go, oh gosh, yeah, you're right. Oh, we're at 4. Oh gosh, I gotta stop, dude. Oh my gosh. Like, it's corny and silly. And I made this comparison, right? Is that if this ever happened to the survivor side, this would never ever go through. Walk with me here. Imagine, because I know there's gonna be cyber mains who watch this and be like, cranky there, man. Walk with me here. What if Behavior woke up one day and decided that if you did a gen within 30 to 40 seconds, that everybody on the team got a hook state? How mad would you be? You guys were just doing your objective and you were just doing it fast. What if you woke up tomorrow and if you did a gen within 30 seconds, everybody on the team got a hook state? Wouldn't that feel really BS? Wouldn't that feel super unfair? Yeah, that's what these changes are doing. They're punishing you and setting you back for doing your objective, which is, if it was on the other side, it would never, ever remotely fly. And I hate playing that card because I try to be as down the middle and fair as I can be. I can't help some things that I feel because I realistically play 80-20. I play Survivor with my friends and most of the time, not even on stream. But if this ever even, if a change even remotely close to this happened on the Survivor side, of course it wouldn't fly. Of course we would not give everybody a hook state for doing a gen too fast. But we'll do it to the killer side. And that's okay for some reason. I want, this is your challenge. If you're a super jaded Survivor main that is super happy about these changes, I want you down in the comments below to tell me why, if we can be punished for playing our objective too fast, why each survivor can't get a hook state for doing a gen too fast. It's only fair, right? Why can't survivors also have something like this, where if they do the first gen too fast, they all get a hook state? Now, I'm being facetious, of course. I don't want that. But hey, since we're applying something like that to the killer side, where's the rallying to have something like that on the survivor side? Where's our anti-gen rush punishment? And we're not even done with this section. We still have more. There's more. When a survivor that has previously been hooked or hooked is killed or sacrificed, the killer loses the ability to block damage or regression errors by any means. This is the one that I think was abused the most today, which is frightening because usually when there's something that's abusable by the other side, when something gets turbo buffed, it usually takes them a while to figure out how to abuse this. So we usually don't see the effects of that until it already hits live. But I've had already in plenty of my games today, I have already had people abusing this. The last game I played today was a Pyramid Head game where one of the Vs that I was facing realized that they had this position where, hey, I was the last one hooked and I'm on death hook. So you know what she did? She ran and interrupted my chase multiple times because guess what? I can't down her. If I down her, she gets up because of the slug recovery. But if I hook her, then I can't block. I block the gens for the rest of the game, meaning that I can't patrol the remaining gens. I was winning that game by a vast margin. I was doing really well. I was hitting my Pyramid Head, Rights of Judgment. I was playing really well, and I wasn't even tunneling. I wasn't slugging. But I went from having a really, really solid position at 3 gens to suddenly fighting for my life, almost hitting the end game, just because this person realized that they could artificially impress the penalty on me and kept interrupting my chases. It was so obnoxious. It was so obnoxious. I hated it. There was another person earlier today, I know we're going back up a bit, that I was playing a Xenomorph match on Toba Landing, and they got straight off hook, and they started running in my chase, trying to drop pallets on my head. running through my body, because remember, they don't have collision anymore when they're straight off hook. So they're running through my body, trying to drop pallets on my head, but like I can't stop and hit this person and drop them, because if I do that, guess what? They're gonna get right back up. Can't slug him to get him out of the way. Can't do that. If I hit him with endurance, they can just keep coming after me. If I hook him, oh, well, you hooked the last person that got hooked, they're dead. Guess what? Can't kick gens anymore. This is so poorly thought out. So poorly thought out. This gets worse too, because if you get down into a situation where there's like a 3-gen and you are correct to hold that 3-gen because they weren't paying attention to what gens they were doing in what order, they could, if they're like a 4-man and they're on comms, they could just go, oh yeah, Billy, you're on death hook. Not Billy the character, but hey, Bob, you're on death hook. Go run at the killer. And then if he's the last one that got hooked, they just hook him, boom, can't regress gens anymore. They get a 25 bonus, boom. Then they just get out of the 3-gen. It's so manipulatable. It is so easy to manipulate. It is absurd. They did not account for gameplay flow. They didn't account for killer powers. They didn't account for basically anything when it came to how this actually would play out in a match. Also, this thing, realistically, for, you know, if we were actually, you know, trying to take this seriously and not just blow up the killer roll, should have this thing on it too. These effects are lost when performing conspicuous action. But I had multiple scenarios today where I found out very much the hard way that this stuff does not turn off with conspicuous actions. I had a Rebecca that was on a gen right in front of my face, and I went to push her off of it, and when I downed her and moried her, I couldn't kick the gens for the rest of the game. I had another situation like this happen today when I was playing a Xenomorph game where I had Atari, I had downed, and I went to go hook, and there was the Nia that I had previously hooked, and she went and saboed. So now, this is my position, right? This is my error now. Is either I drop the Tari because I can't reach a hook now, Tari gets up, but I can't go like down the Nia and hook her because that's a back-to-back hook. You can't do that. So what? But she just saboed the hook in front of me. Do I just have to just like let her sabo now? Like they didn't think about this at all. Like that's a lose-lose situation for me. Either I play bad, I play wrong, and I go chase the person I already hooked, which is not something I'm supposed to be doing, bad, or I let the person that I, you know, had already successfully downed while not tunneling just get right back up. This is ridiculous. I know we've already been talking about this one for a little bit, but here's the, this is the funny thing, because this is the one that I'm like, well, this one's actually pretty great. I hear a lot of people be like, oh yeah, the slugging reduction update, that stuff's good. Leave that stuff in. So this thing is when you leave somebody on the ground, there's a resolve bar that's shared across survivors that's 90 seconds. So if you leave somebody on the ground for 90 seconds total, then they get up and they just have infinite unbreakable for the rest of the game. Which once again, if you're remembering, there's a lot of scenarios where this doesn't quite work. Specifically, flashlight save squads and Sabos squads. Sabos squads are already still really good in the game. Boilover squads are already still very annoying. They probably won't win the match, but they are annoying. Sabos squads will actually win the match though, because realistically you only need like 1 or 2 people kind of hovering for the Sabo, and then the rest can just be on gens. So you end up in a lose-lose situation where, hey, this person's going to go Sabo, so I should drop them. But if I drop them, they just get back up. Why am I dropping them? Not to maliciously slug, but because I literally cannot hook them. And this is criminal, considering the fact that a lot of the times, this is even your fault. This is just that behavior does not spawn a lot of hooks on a lot of maps in very convenient spots. So you may be put in a lose-lose situation for no other reason than just map design. So I guess Sabo squads are just like super meta now, because if you Sabo and they have to drop, you're just kind of forcing the infinite unbreakable, and then that's even better, because if you force the infinite unbreakable, then like your Sabo gets even stronger, because not only do you like force them to drop the survivor that they were going to hook, but they can just get up on their own, so you don't even have to send another person to go grab them. This is actually just like perfect to do now. Like holy moly. And like I said, this gets even worse when you factor in the anti-tunnel on top of it, because now the person that, you know, is on death hook, that was last hook, essentially has a pseudo invincibility to them that they can then use to come in and Sabo or try to beamer save, and you can't go after them, because if you hook them, no, you can't hook them, no, they just came off hook, no. Even though if you're slugging somebody else, you've actively chased and downed another person. So clearly at that point, you're not technically tunneling anymore. But according to the game, you are. Chasing and downing another person, you're still tunneling. This is just a small side. I didn't really like the Myers rework. I feel like the amount of time that I lose either, when I enter tier 3 and I have that movement speed penalty, and every time I go for a lunge, I have a movement speed penalty, and then I have a cooldown whenever I go for my slaughtering strike. I feel like I'd just much rather just have my normal lunge. Also, somebody brought this up, and I thought this was really smart. The slaughtering strike is an M2. So buy surge, buy save, buy the perks that you used to use with this character. I want to say this just for the homies at home, because I know a lot of you love Unknown. Despite the fact that you got a very cool ability to look straight up, they nerfed everything else pretty badly. Your add-ons got walloped for like no reason for a character that was already feast or famine. So I don't know why they did that. Dracula got an add-on gutting, despite the fact that he is still one of the buggiest characters in the game right now. So while you're dealing with the fact that you barely already play your favorite character because they have so many game-breaking bugs right now, or just general bad clunk, they're not only side grading you, but they're also nerfing your add-ons across the board. So isn't that great? By the way, the Oni thing, the number that... Just wait on the number, guys. Wait on the numbers. I promise it'll look good. There's only 5 orbs. Only 5. Only 5. I saw a content creator that like had thousands hours today said, oh, that's actually pretty good. Do you play this character? Do you play Oni? Oni's in my top 5. I like Oni a lot. 5 blood orbs? 5. For the fact that slugging as a strategy is just blown up, I get 5. Barely over double off of a hook. Come on. There's one positive thing. Vigil doesn't stack anymore, but there's also a exhaustion reducing perk that came out with V, so not quite gone, but I'm glad that they got rid of Vigil, at least Vigil stacking. Also fun, they nerfed basically every good meta perk on killer. Pop nerfed, pain res nerfed, eruption nerfed. Eruption's only 5% now, which is wild. Leverage, which, already anti-heal as a killer like perk choice or add-on choice is already abysmal. But no, we just got to make sure leverage is even worse now too. Dead Man's nerfed. Barbecue is a 4-hook perk again, which is a neat idea. And I got really excited initially, and then I saw the number was 5%, and I was like, oh yeah, never mind. What are we doing? These changes are made by people who are like, oh, tunneling, camping, slowdown bad, but they just they don't understand why tunneling, slugging, camping, slowdown, like why these are used. They're used because of the things that exist on the other side that are either extremely hard to counter or uncounterable. They use these to meet your maker, not to make another behavior reference, to meet your maker when it comes to the BS stuff that's on the other side. It's the BS versus BS war. So now you're just gutting one side's ability to handle this stuff and just leaving the rest fine. I think if the objective of this patch was to prevent tunneling and slugging that was malicious, it does that technically, but it also not only takes out fair tunneling or slugging that just happens based on either player mistake or as a counterplay to a survivor strategy, but it also makes it to where people that are actively avoiding slugging and tunneling are also indirectly being punished, because there are just scenarios that happen in the game that require you to go after the same person again that isn't exactly tunneling. The guy that just came off hook, that's Death Hook, is going after my totem, going after the last gen and a 3 gen with 1 gen left, that this does not account for in any way, shape, or form. The slugging mechanic does not in any way account for Sabos squads, for save squads. It just doesn't think about it at all. It's just like any slugging bad, any tunneling bad. And that is why I thought behavior understood that they can't make changes like this, because unless you account for healthy versions of these mechanics, as opposed to negative malicious versions of these mechanics, you can never do a change like this. Because if you just do a flat change like this, where all tunneling, all slugging bad, people are A, going to abuse it, and B, you're going to run into situations where you're not trying to maliciously use these tactics in a way that's just way too oppressive and unfair. You're going to be bodied too. You're going to have a hard time. So I think in terms of just like your mission statement to make the game more healthy, this does not make the game more healthy. This removes 2 unhealthy strategies in the game, which is like hard tunneling at 5 gens or 4-man slugging everybody out the gate. but you introduce so many more problems of people weaponizing anti-tunnel, people weaponizing anti-slug mechanics, that you have created a more unhealthy game as a result. And I think that it was easy to see this a mile away. I think that I believed nobody when they said, well, let's just wait and see the numbers with the dev notes. I think it was clearer a mile away that these changes were going to be bad. I tested them for hours and hours today, and I had people already weaponizing this stuff against me. And that's crazy considering the fact that it hasn't even been 24 hours. And people already know how this stuff works. They know the ins and outs, and they know how to abuse it on purpose. So here are my two theories, because this seems so out of character for a behavior. I know that sounds weird considering their track record this year, but I remember a behavior that when they were about to blow up Xenomorph entirely and put them into like C- tier at best, that they actually listened to us and tried to not have this happen. They used to be receptive. I don't know what happened in the last year, but something completely changed on their end. I think just as an outsider looking into whatever they got going on, these do not feel like the same people that used to do things here. Like, they do not feel like the same behavior I used to interact with, and I don't know what happened. So here's my two tinfoil hat theories. First, the numbers for 2v8 are so good on the back end that they're like, we need to make 4v1 like 2v8. There is some sort of like internal memo that we have to make 4v1 more like 2v8, because those numbers of people coming back to play 2v8 and then leaving the game, they want those people to stay. So if you like current 4v1 and you enjoy current 4v1, like, we don't care about you. It's because those numbers of 2v8 look so good that we want those numbers nonstop. And if that means driving away our core player base to do it, you guys can be damned. We don't care. Here's my second tinfoil hat theory, is that there was a big executive or management shakeup, and for some reason that executive or new management does not have their finger on the pulse of the community. They do not know what's good for the game, and they're just making sweeping executive decisions just based off numbers. It could be both or it could be neither, but that's the only thing I can think that this makes sense, because this is wildly off base, and it's not even close. It's not even remotely close to being something that's healthy for the game or good for the game. I have never had as many people in my chat today saying that I am actively quitting this game as I have today. And I mean that. I streamed this game for the PTB for like almost 6 hours today, and I had person after person after person after person after person coming in saying, I am quitting, I am uninstalling. I'm quitting, I'm uninstalling. I have never in one day of streaming ever had that many people say in unison, I am quitting DBD. I hope it's worth it. I really do. I really hope it's worth it. Because if they're being serious, which it sounded like they were, it sounds like you're going to lose a lot of people doing this. So I really, really hope it was worth all this. I hope those 2v8 numbers, those people that you are going to bring back, truly do make up the gap. Because there's a lot of people who are not going to play your game anymore. I was blown away at the amount of people saying they were quitting today. The amount of people saying they're going to quit. And it's not even just like the changes themselves. It's just like, it's clear now, and I say this with as much love as I can for especially like Jocelyn and the other community managers that have been so nice to me. You are so off base and you're not even close, and it sounds like you don't care about us anymore. Like, generally you don't care at all. This is what I mean, like, you can say, oh, we hear you, or oh, we care about you, but this is getting ridiculous. This is getting absolutely ridiculous. And from the Walking Dead chapter, blowing up the game, making such crazy bugs that you had to make an emergency health chapter into, oh, by the way, even if you're playing fairly, you're going to have to play a different way because it's just not the way we approve of. Even if we end up in a universe where this works perfectly, let's say every toxic positive content creator you've ever heard of, like, yeah, once it's in the game, it'll work just fine. Even if it does work perfectly, you have to play killer one specific way, and that's the only way you're allowed to play. Any sort of skill expression, out the door. You have to play the one way that behavior is sanctioned as the correct right way, or else the game actively punishes you. Like I said, you literally have a little gold bar on the bottom left of your screen on your hook counter that's like, you're doing the good boy thing, hee hee, and red if you're doing bad. You don't want us to enjoy your game anymore. At least the killer side of things, you don't want us to enjoy the game. You want us to be friendly NPCs to play the game a one specific way to serve a role for the main players in the game. You have absolutely blown up any sort of strategy that isn't the one strategy you enjoy and consider to be fair and healthy. You can't proxy, you can't tunnel, you can't slug. Even if you're in a situation where you're against a 4-man Swift on comms with all the best meta perks, no tunneling, no slugging, none of that. It is wrong. It is morally incorrect. That's the future you want. So even if this all works and this is all fine, it's kind of boring. It's kind of just boring. It's so linear and it's putting guardrails on our gameplay that are so slim. It's like, who would want to play that? Who would want to just time to play almost the exact same game of DBD over and over again? It's boring. I don't know. I could go off on this forever. There's another aspect of this that just blows my mind, is that you, over the past like 3 or 4 years, have been trying to move the game into a fair and balanced situation in terms of the game's meta. You have put considerable effort into making sure certain perks aren't too strong or too weak, certain characters aren't too strong or too weak. You have put in so much effort into making a balanced version of DBD to just randomly at the end of 25 to randomly throw up your hands and go, I don't know, it's a party game again. Is that not like spitting in the face of the work that you have put in this game that honestly we appreciated with like an 85% accuracy for the past like few years of trying to make the game more balanced? Like, are you not spitting all over your own work and just like throwing it out? Do you not feel pride in what you made to just suddenly upend it all entirely for the sake of, well, it's a party game again? Like, holy. Yeah, if you made it this far, I appreciate you. And you're great. And you know what? You may be asking, Brand, are you going to quit? Are you going to leave the game? Here's the deal. I am here for you. I am very happy and I am in a very privileged spot to be able to make content for such a wonderful group of people. I know there's fringe people that come in and out that are really weird, but that's just content creation in general. 95% of you are genuinely cool, down-to-earth people that I could not be luckier to make content for. And for that, I don't feel it's right to abandon you. I think you deserve to have somebody who makes content for you, cares about you, and will speak up for the problems that you have in the game. So until then, until the game dies, I got you. Let me know, and I'll try to voice as much as I can. You deserve somebody to speak for you, because I don't know what's going on over there, but they certainly don't care what you think, but I do. And I will sit out on that island and I will speak for you if I have to. I'm sorry that the game company is not good at listening to you and seem to just kind of like toss away your worries. But I will keep fighting for you as long as I am allowed to. And I appreciate you so much for spending so much time with me day to day in this, like, you know, man and share content a lot of the time. I know I do a lot more stuff with like the Xeno builds and stuff like that now too. But you made me part of your day all the time with like eating my video, like eating my videos, watching my videos while eating over dinner, over lunch, on your break. You put that trust in me, and that means a lot to me. So let me know whatever you want to feel and whatever you think about all this stuff, and I will speak for you until I'm no longer allowed to. Yeah, what did you think of this wonderful PTB? Were you surprised at all the things people were saying about it, or was it about on the money? Let me know down in the comments below. But other than that, thank you so much for watching and spending a little bit of your day today with me. Hopefully I made that day a little bit better. If I did not, I'll try to do so again in the next video. If I don't see you there, I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.